Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Steph Sells Homes podcast. This is episode 20, and today we are here with a very special friend of mine, a coach. He doesn't know that he coaches me, but virtually, but eventually he will. And I want to go ahead and allow him to introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about what he does. This podcast is brought to you by ADU Insider. ADU Insider is a network where you can connect with a lot of professionals in the ADU space. And again, I'm happy to have you here, Mike. Please welcome Mike to the show, and thank you for being here today.
Hey, thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And boy, good to know that I coach you without even knowing I coach you. I love that. That's great. So
Exactly.
I love giving back and helping people. So
You really do. And that's one of the things that I respect about you is that you are a wealth of knowledge. You've obviously been through so much and have overcame so many things and seen so many things in your lifetime that I always appreciate your feedback and your input in anything that we're actively doing and working on. Now, we've shared a lot of stages on Clubhouse, and I want people to really get to know you on a deeper level and understand who is Mike behind My Core Intentions and how all of this came about, and why you are the way you are now. So if you can touch a little bit on that and share more about your story, I really want people to hear
yeah,
that.
you know, um, that's such a big array of things to talk about. I've been in the real estate space for 30 years, and I started out in the construction business. So I I had a general contracting business and woke up one morning and just was burnt out. Steph, you know what it's like being an entrepreneur and all the things that go into that, right? Your marketing, your managing, your selling, your, scheduling, your hiring, your firing. And I was doing all that and all the bookkeeping and still pounding nails in the field. And I woke up one morning, looked at my wife at the time, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm just burnt out. And it was funny because I think that the push was I had somebody knocking on the door wanting to buy the business. So I sold the company, took a year off, and tried to figure out who I was and what I wanted to do with my life, right? And I heard years ago Jim Rohn say that success leaves clues. And that always stuck with me. And I believe that when I say success leaves clues, it's not just successful people, but it's people that have had challenges along the way. Because you know what? Get it right. People are going to stumble, they're going to fall, they're going to fail, and nobody's perfect. We're human, right? So I met this real estate agent. Actually, when I took that year off, my wife and I at the time did a couple of house hacks. And this was long before it was sexy, long before it was the buzz, and now everybody does it, right? But we did a couple of house hacks, and I met this real estate agent along the way who was really good at what he did, and built a relationship with him and went to him and said, hey, I think I want to go in the real estate business. And he said, man, I think you'd be great at it. So he really encouraged me to do so. And what I did was I went to him and said, could I shadow you and your team? And he said, no, I'm going to do one better. Now, I'm going to date myself here a little bit, but he said, I'm going to make you a cassette tape. And he made me this cassette tape, and I just listened to it over and over and over again. And here again, success leaves clues. I took those fundamentals that he taught me and I implemented them in my business, and I went into the real estate business. And my first 9 months, I sold 78 houses. Didn't know anybody. I was Remax Rookie of the Year that year. I went on to build a team selling about 125 houses a year. And 2005, we did that for about 12 years consecutively. And then 2005 rolled around, and I saw the market was starting to soften. Now, by this time, I had a staff working for me. I had a buyer's agent and a listing agent, and I knew that if I didn't go do something different, that everything was going to change. And I didn't know what that was. I just felt it coming. I saw it coming. Similar to what I see some of the effects in the marketplace today. But I decided to go in the apartment business. Had always been intrigued by the apartment business. When I was in the construction business, I did a lot of work for Inland Real Estate, a very large syndicator here in Chicago. That they started out 4 high school teachers. They bought this four flat, and today they're the largest REIT in the world, 80 countries, every asset class. So it's funny how this business can grow if you grow it. And so I was intrigued though by the apartment business, and here's what I understood was you could raise private capital, marry it with a great real estate deal, stay in the middle, and as long as everything went well, everybody made money and did well, right? Well, I syndicated, I raised capital for my first 11 unit multifamily deal in 2005. And from there, I went on and raised $18 million. I bought $60 million worth of real estate. It was about 4,000 apartments in 5 markets. And I did that in 30 months. So I tend to do everything fast, right? And I scaled that business very quickly, and it was very unstable as a company. And I didn't realize that at the time, but 2008 rolled around, and if anybody remembers what 2008 was like, it was like hitting a brick wall in a freight train at 200 miles an hour. I actually remember, Steph, I was having lunch with my CFO. We're sitting in a restaurant watching the news, which wasn't a normal thing that we did, but I remember people carrying boxes out of Lehman Brothers by the droves. And I looked across the table at him and said, "Man, we're in big trouble, aren't we?" He said, "Yeah, we're in trouble." And I didn't understand the magnitude of that comment for another few months down the road. But what wound up happening was, because we grew the company so fast and so quickly, I was undercapitalized, didn't raise enough money to do what we were doing, and I was over leveraged. I bought $60 million worth of real estate that we were 85% loan to value on, and I would never advise anybody of that today. I think you got to grow slowly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to make sure that you have enough equity in deals. So be 65 to 75% loan to value on your deals. I don't care if it's residential or commercial, because if this market shifts, you could be caught in tornado.
Especially for the multifamily projects, right? Because these aren't 60, 90-day turnarounds. You're looking at 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, right? So you really have to make sure you don't over leverage yourself.
Yeah, when you're doing a value add deal, and some of what we did was a lot of value add, those turnaround times are longer because of so many units, and when you have 300 units, it takes you 30 months to get them all done and turn that property over. So it's a time commitment and a time issue. So 2010 rolled around, and I was very unstable as a company. We were very heavily vested in markets that were like car markets and transportation markets, and as a result of that, those were the industries that got hit the hardest during the economic downturn. And people started moving out of our complexes. They started doubling up. Our occupancies dropped. As a result of occupancies dropping, your NOI, your net operating income, drops. Now all of a sudden you're stuck not being able to pay your bills. You can't pay your bills. You can't pay investors. And as a result of that, you're in a situation where it's like, now what do I do? Well, I had 38 different companies at the time, and I built this platform of these syndicated deals, and I also built a property management company where we were managing 7,500 doors. So I had a company almost close to $100 million in value that I built during that time. And it stung very hard when the markets changed. So I tried to figure out a way that I could keep the ship afloat. See, here's what I thought. This is just a typical recession. Typical recessions last 17 or 18 months. It's a 10 to 12% correction in the marketplace. Well, that didn't happen this time. This was 7 or 8 years of 40% correction. And how do you weather that storm? So in the midst of it, I tried to figure out what to do. So I thought, well, let me take money from companies that are performing well and put it over here in non-performing companies to keep the ship afloat. so that my investors don't get hurt. Steph, in reality, what I should have done was I should have let a dozen deals go to foreclosure. Some of my investors get hurt, but I didn't want anybody to get hurt. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you know. I hate to tell anybody anything bad. So I started moving money back and forth between companies. And both my accountant and my attorney both said it's fine to do that, leave a paper trail. When the markets bounce back, put the money back, and it'll be fine. Well, you know, you're in the real estate business. It's a high transparency business. It's a very disclosure oriented business. You need to tell everybody what you're doing to stay out of trouble. And what I did was I didn't tell my investors about the movement of money. So for non-disclosure, I wound up being charged on wire fraud and mail fraud charges and got sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. So 2013, I wound up going to prison, got wiped out, lost everything, including my family, wondering, you know, now what happens. And I don't know if you want to unpack any of that stuff or if you want me to keep going.
Oh yeah. I mean, tell us what's going through someone's mind, you know? How do you even accept that reality that now it's all gone? You've got 10 years, and we always talk about focus on things that you can control and things that you can't. I don't know that I could focus on something like that, you know, and actually accept the reality. So walk us through mentally, what does that do to someone's mindset? I mean, and how did you overcome that? You know, that right there, I'd like for you to unpack.
Yeah, so I actually got indicted in 2011, and what was interesting about that was um, I, I I looked at my wife and I said, "Hey, look, we have a choice here. I could give you some money and you'll burn through it in a couple of years and have to go get a job, or I could go build a business that will keep you and the kids in the house and pay the bills." And so we decided, because she had a background in real estate, we decided I'd go build a property management company. So Steph, really, I kept my mind busy for 2 years. So that period of time from when I got indicted till when I got sentenced to go to prison, and mind you, I knew I was going to go to prison, but I didn't know for how long, right? I didn't know the magnitude of what had happened. And I went out, I built a property management company that she actually still runs and manages today, and kept her and the kids in the house. It was, it was very fruitful for her while I was gone. So, I'm not saying it was easy, but it was fruitful and worked. So that's how I kept my head in the game, right? I stayed busy. I kind of stayed detracted from it. It was like every time my phone rang, I hoped it wasn't my attorney or somebody that had to deal with the legal entity that I was fighting, right? So going to prison was a totally different thing. The day I got dropped into this new world, and what I always tell people, Steph, is I say, I never flew private. I didn't buy a boat. I didn't have a big house or a fancy car. I was the neighborhood baseball coach. I had a great marriage. My wife and I were best friends. I got ripped from that life to live in a 12 by 12 room with three men I didn't know nor did I like, wondering what the hell happened to my life and what was tomorrow going to be like. So I walked around for like 3 weeks, 21 days to the day, and my wife decided that she was going to divorce me and move on with her life, and it wrecked me. And so, here I am walking around in prison every day, just like I couldn't get my arms around it, right? And guys would say, "Hey, hang in there, man. 6 months to a year, you'll get this. You'll be fine. You'll get in a rhythm." And I'm like, man, I don't know when I'm going to let. The joke in prison was take his shoelaces because we think he's going to hurt himself. But I really believe people have these defining moments in our life, and here was one of mine. And Steph, I believe we have more than one in our lives. Not a lot, but two or three of them happen. And you better be aware of them, because grab hold of them, because they really will make a difference in your life. But I walk in the gym one day and I was just window shopping. I wasn't looking to work out. I wasn't looking to lift a weight. I'd gone from running marathons to being 35 pounds overweight. I absolutely hated myself. And I, this guy walks up to me in the gym that day and he says, "Hey, don't let these people beat you. All they want to do is take from you everything you've ever known, everything you've ever worked for, and, try and destroy your life. They can take your real estate, they can take your company, they can take your money, they can destroy your family, but what they can't take is who you are and what you're made of. They can't take the man inside who caused you to build that $100 million company. You can make a difference in your life and in other people's lives." And God, I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden, everything changed. It was like somebody opened a door and I walked in it. He said, "Come to this class every day, start working out. You'll start losing weight, you'll start feeling better." And I did that. I started to feel better. I started to lose weight. Steph, I wound up going to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote 2 books while I was gone. One is Exit Plan, Your Complete Guide to Multifamily Investing and Why You Need an Exit Plan Before You Buy. I'd love to give a copy away to your listeners at the end of the show.
I would love that. I would
Yeah.
love that. And I see them right behind you as
Yeah.
well. So that's super inspiring. I mean, wow, I've heard the story, guys, and I hope that it inspired some of you guys because you can tell that it was a defining moment or period in your life, and that is why you are the way you are. You're so giving, you're so understanding, you're so passionate about what you do. And it shows because clearly you have that contrast. And I think a lot of successful people, like you said, success leaves clues. And I posted this on my Instagram the other day when I went to go see Tim Story for the first time. I went to go see him at an event, and that was one of the first quotes that he mentioned. Success leaves clues. And I think you're right. It doesn't only pertain to your successful life, meaning work life, but your personal life, the obstacles that you've had to overcome, the just tough moments, right, that come to your life that we're not prepared for. I wouldn't have been prepared for something like that. And so, but it's amazing how you think that you aren't capable of dealing with certain things in your life, yet God gives you the strength that you didn't think you had within you, right? And I think that right there is the beauty to life.
When it comes all down to it, that's the only way I got through it was with my relationship with the Lord. People say, "Why'd you go to college for a degree in theology?" I said, because that kept me focused on what I needed to focus on to keep my sanity during that time. And and what's funny is, I wrote books. I was on an outreach program, went into the community. I told my story. I taught in prison for 6 years, real estate investing, property management, and ethics. How ironic, right? A federal inmate teaching ethics in prison. But it came back. It comes back 100-fold. And today I've been approved by the SEC to go back and sponsor deals. I actually partner with my coaching clients and we do deals together and go out and raise capital. And, so it's kind of come full circle. And, I love the business. I'm passionate about it. And so I tell my story because I want to provide that hope and inspiration. We talked about this before. I think so many people are trapped in their own head, their own demons, right? Whether it's drug or alcohol addiction, sex or gambling or abuse or, whatever it is. And we don't have to let our past define us. We can move forward and we can make a difference, not only in our lives, but in other people's lives around us from our stories. So
100%. And I think your story is very inspiring. It gives me hope, for my younger brother as well. So it's just nice, and it's very comforting to hear that many people are going through certain struggles in life, but we can overcome them. No excuses. And now I understand why you're so about disclosing everything and doing everything by the book. I love that. So let's pivot here a little bit. I think that was a lot of unpacking, and I want to give the audience a few other nuggets throughout this conversation. And one of the questions that I had for you was raising capital. You mentioned that you now do that with your clients and people that you're coaching. So walk us through capital raising. How do we tap into the capital raising world? I know that I don't know much about it, but I know that it's very relationship based because we're in a relationship business. And so I want people to understand that you can't just go out and start capital raising just from one day to the next, right? I think it takes years of cultivating relationships. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you can tell the audience, how do we tap into capital raising and where do we start?
So let me tell the story of the first time I raised capital. So that first deal I bought was an 11 unit deal, and I put it under contract, and I went, okay, now I got to go find the money, right? So again, I'm going to date myself, but I put a little ad in the newspaper in the classified section that said real estate investors wanted. I think I spent $45 for 3 lines. My phone rang off the hook for about 6 days, and over the next 7 or 8 months, I raised $500,000. I don't think that's duplicatable today, but here's what I know: there's a lot of other platforms today. You've got to build relationships with people, whether that's through social media, whether it's through email marketing. You have to meet people every day where they are, and you have to just, I meet somebody new, and when they say, what do you do, I say, hey, I help investors achieve a better return than the stock market. I help investors who are tired of, the same old returns in the stock market by providing investments in apartments that are secure, low risk with high teens return. Who do you know who would have an interest? And it's not any more difficult than that. But you need to tell everybody what you do. You need to ask everybody who they know. So I think there's two key points there: meet people, build relationships, and ask for referrals. And I think that that's what helps us, any of us, whether you're selling real estate, whether you are, finding a seller to buy an investment from, or raising capital. It really doesn't matter what space you're in.
I like that. I think you're right. And we forget to ask for referrals, or sometimes we're afraid to ask for referrals. But I think once you have cultivated strong relationships, I mean, these people become walking billboards, right? If you can, help investors with their ROIs and you prove yourself to them, then they're going to go out and rave about you with their family and friends or other investor friends. And that's how you grow your database. And like you said, you just make those connections, and don't forget to tell people what it is that you do. That's another thing that I learned from Mike. I'm always connecting with people daily now, thanks to him on Clubhouse, because I see him, I see what he's doing, and I don't just listen to what people are saying, I watch what people are doing, and I'm doing the same thing. I saw he had a podcast. I started doing a podcast. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at first, but I just knew that I would create a system, and I'd be able to duplicate that system because I want to connect with more people. And we can't just assume that people know what we do. Never. That was one of the first things that I was taught in this business. Never assume. Never assume anything. And so if we can't assume that people know that Mike coaches. He needs to put it out there every single day and tell people that this is what he does for a living and that's his purpose. So I love that. I love that, Mike.
Hey, you said two key things I just want to zone in on real quick. You talked about being fearful, you can't not talk to somebody because you're afraid. You can't let fear dictate you, right? I remember I was in prison just a couple weeks, and somebody said, "Man, this makes cold calling like nothing." And I thought, God, that's so true, right? Because you go behind the wall, you don't know what's happening and what's going on. So it's kind of funny, but and then the other thing is that Steph, I think I encouraged you. I said, go buy a microphone. Just go buy a microphone and do it, right? And so here you are, several episodes in, and I think it's awesome because everybody's got to start with that one episode and go out there and do it. And this is where people learn to know you, they like you, they start to follow you, they love you. And that's how it starts to build your circle of influence even bigger than what it already is.
Exactly. And I think it took me a minute to understand that, and I encourage other people, a lot of the realtors on my team, a lot of people struggle with that confidence on camera. And I think that the beauty to it is that by you consistently putting yourself out there, people get to know you. And so you gravitate towards people that are like minded, that like what you stand for. They want to do business with you because they know, like, and trust you based off of video. So, and the people that don't want to work with you, they filter themselves out. And so all it takes is for us to hit record. But sometimes we can't even overcome that. So I thank you for mentoring me in that sense, to not be fearful and just take massive action and figure out all the nuances that come along the
Yeah.
way. So another thing that I also wanted you to tap into was multifamily space. And we're going to talk about two different things, but the first one was who would be my team. You know that I'm wanting to transition from the residential space into multifamily, and multifamily is so huge. I'm coming to realize, it's not just 4 units and up, or 2 to 4 units. You've got 5 to 50s. You've got different types of multifamily. There's so many different avenues, to that I came across. And so who would be that ideal team in the multifamily space? As I'm structuring my team in the multifamily space, who are the people that should be part of that team?
Well, let me say this. I'd love to have you on my team for, start there. So, because I think that you bring some,
Wow, thank you for
yeah,
that.
I
Thank
think that
you.
you bring some talent to the table that people need to tap into, or that you can tap into even deeper. But here's what I always say: when you're building a team, know what you are, know who you are, know your strengths, and know your weaknesses. Because once you know that about yourself and what you bring to the table, now you can go find other team members that bring the other things to the table. So if you sat down and you wrote a list of everything that has to happen in a multifamily acquisition and then in operations, now you can say, I'm good at this, 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 and this. I need somebody who can fill this gap, and this gap. So I'll give you an example. Part of the process is you have to go work with a securities attorney, put together an LLC agreement for the business entity, and put together a PPM, a private placement memorandum. And what that does is that dictates the sources and uses of the funds. So I'm going to raise X amount of capital, it's going to get used for this, and this is how it's going to get paid back. That's the basic oversight of that. Well, those documents are usually about 50 pages each, and I'm asleep by page 3. So I had to go find a partner that could dot the I's and cross the T's. And I did. I found one of my coaching clients that was really good at that fundamental basic stuff, right? She can read through the documents, say, hey, this doesn't make sense. I don't like this. Let's change this. And we could talk about it and, come up with a good document that worked for everybody. So she handles, the legal entity, she handles the private placement, she handles the investor portal and website, she handles insurance and the funding and all of those components that go into that multifamily acquisition. I love to find deals. I love to underwrite deals. I love to make sure that um, the business plan is going to get executed. The asset management piece of managing the property management company. My other partner, he's really good at the construction component and making sure that our pricing is right and that the materials ordered and the project management piece and making sure that things are moving along. And he and I underwrite together. So the three of us are really make a cohesive team, and we can get all those moving parts moving at the same time so that we get things done quicker and more efficiently. But then there's that one last partner that you need, and that's a KP, a key principal, somebody who has experience, has knowledge, has a balance sheet, has units under management, and can sign on the dotted line for a mortgage. Because now we're not talking about just a 80 or $200,000 mortgage on a residential piece of property. We're talking about a multi-million dollar transaction, and typically smaller investors starting in the business can't get that type of loan. So you have to bring somebody in that has more experience and more knowledge. The banks are going to be more interested in that person. So you have to look at what holes need to be filled. Hey, part of our team is a great property management company that we have where we own apartments. And that property management company, we vetted 5 or 6 property management companies to come up with one company that has done really well. And then the other thing is, how do you vet contractors and make sure that the contractors on your team are good, that they're team players? Because what you want to do is you want to build a team that buys into your vision and will help your vision get accomplished. That's how you build a successful team.
I love that, because that last part was it for me, is they have to align with your vision. I see a lot of miscommunication amongst contractors, architects, structural engineers, the brokers, the investors, and not everybody is in sync with the ultimate vision, right? And it doesn't matter who's going to be leading the way. We just have to make sure that everybody's on board with the ultimate vision, and we understand how every single person's role plays a part in this huge project. Then I think that's where respect comes in, and alignment with our core values, which is why I like that your podcast is called My Core Intentions, because I'm all about intentional living and surrounding myself with people who are doing better than me so I can learn from them and be inspired. So that's one thing that I feel every time I'm around you, because I'm just like constantly feeding myself with knowledge, So thank you for that, Mike. Another thing that I wanted to ask you was multifamily and ADUs. As you know, I became this ADU realtor just accidentally.
I love that. And don't we sometimes just fall into things by accident? So,
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you that I wasn't thinking of taking this whole ADU movement as serious until I realized that there was a lot of shitty contractors out there that don't know what the hell they're doing, and a lot of people that were scamming people and weren't really doing what they said they were. And so that's when I decided to take it. I took it personal because I didn't have enough knowledge. So I didn't see a lot of things coming my way because I didn't have enough knowledge about the ADU space. I didn't have an understanding of development, planning, permitting, construction, financing. So I decided to go out there and educate myself and started literally looking up the ADU ordinance, reading it up. I always have it here on my laptop, and I just dissect it here and there. It's like my Bible now. And if I don't understand something, I have real estate developer friends now. I have people that work for the city who can explain the process to me. And it's been beautiful because the sky's the limit. Like now I've created a web of and my own web 3.0 of ADUs, and I've got people that I can rely on, highly vetted people. That's why the whole podcast came about too. I said, let me create a team of ADU experts in the field, but that are highly vetted. And how do you vet contractors? I spent a lot of time and energy going to their projects, going to their sites, looking at how they interact, how the team interacts, how do the subcontractors interact with the project manager and interact with the owner, everything. All of that tells me a lot about how you run your company. Do you have systems and processes? I see people who send out proposals through a text. Like, that's not going to work. Right? It's like, come on, people, let's get it together. Let's get contracts in order. Let's get emails sent out. Let's do the right thing, and communicate effectively so that everybody's happy. And that's how you deliver great service. And I've been managing my whole life, property management, not at your scale, but 200 properties, 300 properties here. So I think I'm just grateful to be surrounded by such amazing people. And now I'm trying to figure out my way in the multifamily space. And I don't know enough about it, but I know that ADUs and multifamily together is a great combo. And so I rely on people like you who are in the multifamily space to tell me, how can I implement this strategy in multifamily? What is your take on this whole ADU stuff and multifamily?
Yeah, I kind of like this ADU thing. And I just want to comment on this about you, Steph. So many people get education and they get stuck in that analysis paralysis, right? Where what I've seen about you is you take your education and now you go execute. And more people need to do that. And I want people to take heed in that because, you know, until we move forward, until we progress forward, we stay stuck, right? We don't get anything done. So I love that about you, that you're such an initiative taker that it's just like when I went from the residential space into the multifamily space, I didn't know anything. I just did it. I said, okay, I'm going to go do it, right? I'll figure it out along the way. And I did. I did that first deal. I went back to my broker and said, hey, you know, I need a buying strategy because it's not going to work this way. This was a flop. So, you know, that's how we learn. And I love that about you, that you just take that initiative and you move forward. So that's, you know, big hats off to you for that. I like this combo between ADU and multifamily. I love to look at multifamily today with a little bit different eye because of that. When I look at a deal, if there's some extra property, I wonder, can I build an ADU? Can I build a couple? Can I build something that will, you know, add some revenue to the property? You know, I've always been kind of an out of the box thinker. How do I create extra revenue coming in that might not be from rent? Maybe I can't raise the rents anymore on a property. So where do I get extra revenue from? And ADU is an attractive option for that today because some of the zoning issues are different, because parking issues are different. You don't, you know, I can't necessarily go build another building with more units. Plus, it's cost effective to build an ADU, where to build a full blown building, it costs a lot more money. So, the big difference.
Exactly. That right there is huge, especially with all of this shortage of material and costs going up. It is always going to be a little bit more conservative to just build on existing than actually build a whole ground up, you know, construction project. I know that talking to brokers and investors and bringing this to their awareness will definitely change the game. It really will. And I don't understand how to read a pro forma, but I can say that if this can be a line item added to your pro forma, then it should. Like, you know, we should be looking at this option every time you're looking at future acquisitions or your current investments that you have. You want to look at them, analyze them, and say, okay, how can I implement this strategy? Because here in California, I'll tell you, between 2018 and 2020, there have been over 23,000 ADUs built. And so I think those numbers are going to double in the next 2 years. The permitting process is taking a little bit longer, so we probably won't see those numbers skyrocket until give or take a year to 2 years. But it's happening. There's 34,000 in the permitting process right now.
Wow.
That's in California alone. So I believe that it'll become a nationwide thing. Maybe not every single market, you know, but certainly some markets will change some things. And it really just takes to upzone certain areas, or if, you know, legislation allows for no zoning to be changed, then now you're talking, you know, you can add, that's another value add on top of the value add.
Right. Sure. And those are interesting numbers. I didn't realize they were that big. So I know that Chicago's adopted, you know, ADU policies here, and it's acceptable today. And, you know, the zoning is a little less. You know, the one thing I was going to say about the permitting process is I'm sure it's like that because there's such a backlog now of people trying to get them permitted. So it's taking longer.
Oh yeah, before, I mean, we'd be able to get away with possibly 2 to 4 months for the permitting process. Let's say on a 800 square foot ADU, and the build out would be another 3 to 6 months. You know, so in 8 months you could have your ADU. Right now, a simple garage conversion can take between 11 to 12 months because the permitting alone is taking now 6 months. You know, and so you can't break ground, you can't do anything until that's approved, and that's what's taking the longest right now. So, but I don't think that's going to stop anyone from building these, and we'll continue to see them throughout California. And my job is just to be loud about it, both in English and Spanish. You know, Maria, who's on my team, who's now working with you, is another Spanish advocate of mine, and she's awesome, and she wants to see how she can implement this strategy in her investments. So it's just nice to see, you know, what people will do with it, because it's such a creative strategy. in both the residential and multifamily space.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm glad I got your feedback. That gave me some thoughts for this summit that I'm getting to go on. Which again, I'm not scared to, because I have people like Mike in my area, in my surroundings. They give me the confidence to go out and try new things, because that's just the only way to get started. You've got to throw yourself into the mix and then figure it out. And people like Mike will guide you. I feel like I've always just been blessed with people in my life who guide me. And I do the same for new realtors. And even now, realtors that have been in real estate for a long time, they don't understand the ADU process. And I'm explaining it to them. And I'm more than happy to do that and be an advocate and help people in our own
Yeah,
industry.
and do a poll sometime about how many realtors actually invest in real estate or, either
Yes.
passively or actively. I mean, it's very minimal if at best, right? So, um,
Oh yeah, 100%.
yeah, so I think that, it's more awareness, bringing awareness. So again, it goes just back to showing up and executing.
Yep, and showing up is half the battle. So, tell me, Mike, how can people connect with you for your services, and let them know what kind of services you offer? What is this coaching with Mike in the multifamily space? What to expect? I know you also have a podcast, and any other events that you have coming up. Let the people know so they can connect with
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Steph. I appreciate that. And like you mentioned the name of my company, right? My Core Intentions. And the reason I named it that was because I want people to be intentional about their life. And the results that I really try to help people get are personal and professional. I don't believe any of us grow professionally unless we grow personally. So how do we get there? So I have a couple of different coaching packages or programs, but most important is the growth that people see. I've been coached for 20 years, had a personal coach, and year after year I would see a 20% increase in my bottom line as a direct result of coaching. So no matter how much I invested, I saw a bigger return. It was much more worth it. It was worth the amount invested. Um, so how do you connect with me? Steph, you mentioned it before. We're on Clubhouse a couple times a week. Monday and Tuesday. It's on Central Time. I do a Clubhouse at 2 o'clock Monday and 3 o'clock on Tuesdays. On Tuesdays we talk about private capital. On Monday we talk about basics around multifamily. How do we build a multifamily business? You can anywhere on social media. You and I chase each other all day long on social media, right? Whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. So you can find me out there and connect with me, follow me, and I'm always putting out educational content, information, and then just some fun stuff. So. And then if you want to direct connect with me or you want to schedule a free coaching session, go to mycoreintentions.com, the website, and there's a link there that you could schedule a free coaching session. If you just want to connect with me and network, you can go to mike@mycoreintentions.com. And then for anybody who wants to grab a copy of Exit Plan, you can download a version of that. It's at, if you just go to mycoreintentions.com free, and you can go ahead and download a copy right there. So,
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, we're gonna write that down, and I'll make sure we put that information down below so that people can go ahead and take advantage of
great.
that. I think that's awesome that you do that, and we hope that everybody got a lot of value. I know I did, and I gotta tell you, Mike, after every podcast, my mind just expands, and I tell myself, why didn't I do this sooner? I'm 20 episodes in, but man, the stuff that I've learned, and it becomes an addiction. You want to learn more, and you're like, okay, how can I help more people? How can I service more people by feeding myself more knowledge, and sharing that with all of you guys? So I really want to thank you for your time. And I have two more questions before you
Okay.
go. And I got this idea from Mike himself when I was on his show. So I'm going to ask him these same questions. And question number one is, what is your favorite travel to? spot, and number two, your favorite
So
restaurant
I
or
always
dish.
wondered if I would be able to answer these if somebody asked me back. So, you know what? I'm a West Coast guy. I live in the Midwest, but I love the West Coast. My favorite tourist spot is a nice walk on the beach at Crystal Cove, um, but walking past the cottages there. Uh,
We have to go there when you're in
okay.
town. We'll have to
And
go.
that's a great little restaurant there for breakfast, but that's not my favorite. My favorite is Javier's. Um, so that truly is my favorite.
Javier's is good. Oh yeah, their margaritas are very fire.
So
We'll have to go there. And what about travel to? So is it the West Coast? Is that where you like to travel
yeah,
to?
and I've been to a lot of places, but I really enjoy the West Coast because where can you go when it's 72 degrees year round? Southern California, right?
Yep, Laguna Beach. We'll go to the Ritz in Laguna if you haven't been. Oh, that view is
Is that the old
amazing.
Montage?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
love the Mont. Yeah. So I was
Mhm.
there.
Yep.
I
Right
was
there.
having lunch there with my family one day, and my another buddy of mine and his family, and like these helicopters are hovering over, right? And Obama wound up getting off the helicopter, and they landed, and then they took off. Marine One. It was pretty cool to see that, happen. Like we were sitting up by the
Wow.
pool eating lunch, and so that's my
Yeah, those views are spectacular. So we'll have to make sure that we go there whenever you're in town. Oh, and I thought you mentioned you have a summit coming up in October. You want to tell the people about that too
yeah.
before
Yeah,
we shut this down?
in October, I have a 3-day virtual event that'll be coming up. It's October 20th through the 22nd. And I do this summit every year. And what I do is I bring 20 speakers to a platform where you're not just getting my knowledge and information, but you're getting a lot of different knowledge and information. Um, about multifamily, about the syndication process, so and the legal process around it, self-directed IRAs, property management, everything that goes into that package of syndicating a deal. So people will talk about raising private equity and underwriting deals, and we'll cover the gamut of everything that goes into it. Steph, you've graciously said that you would be on a panel, so I'm looking forward to that, and we'll have a couple of panels. And then my buddy, Michael Zhao, he plays a virtual version of cash flow. You know Michael. And he plays a
Yeah.
virtual version of cash flow. So we'll play a couple of virtual versions of cash flow at the summit also. So definitely watch for upcoming information for early bird ticket sales and things like that to happen. So
I love it. Yeah, I love Michael. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to be there, guys. So make sure you guys get your tickets. And if you guys want more details on that, feel free to reach out to me or Mike, and we'll get you guys those tickets, and we'll see you guys
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So, again, thank you so much, Mike, for being here. Any closing thoughts to the audience and anything you want to share before we head
Yeah, I
out?
think my biggest takeaway is, and I hope that the listeners take this away too, is about you. And that is that, don't just get educated, but get educated and then take action. People have always said for years, well, knowledge is power. Well, it's not really. It's the potential, it's the ability to execute to give you the power. The power's in the execution. So you got to move forward, push yourself forward, do some things that you wouldn't normally do, and build your business. So reach out. It's just like, hey, pick up the phone, call me today. If I can guide you or give you some guidance or direction, I certainly will try and do that.
I love that. Applied knowledge is power, not knowledge is power. That's one thing that stuck to me as well. So, and taking massive action. I agree 100%. But surround yourself with people like this. People always ask me, "Well, how are you not afraid?" Because I connect with people like Mike, and just knowing that you can text someone whenever you're having uncertainty or you're you know, we get these limited beliefs in our head this time, you can reach out to somebody, and you know, Mike is my go-to. So thank you again, Mike. Thank you again, listeners. I'll see you guys on the next episode, and we'll see you guys on the next
Thanks,
one.
Steph.
Have a
Bye.
good day. Bye, Mike. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for watching the show. I will see you on the next one. And again, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. This podcast was brought to you by ADU Insider, and you can check them out on my 10K card, steph10k.com.